Science is my favorite subject, but when it comes to science, I like to keep it real. I do not like mixing science fiction with reality, but that is the craze these days. Talking about Albert Einstein as if it was real science is how you distinguish real scientists from stupid ones. To truly understand science, you must understand the universe. But you believe you must understand science to understand the universe. So you must first see the universe through the eyes of a wizard. Most of you do not believe wizards know real science. In fact, you believe that wizards are just myths and do not exist at all. And this is because wizards are the very thing legends are made of. So science and fiction are thin lines of reality to begin with. So I must define what a light wizard means in science first. In science, the subatomic level is broken up into categories. Quantum mechanics tries to define all of these categories. But one thing is clear. At the subatomic level, God's particle is by far the most interesting level to explain. Because any scientist knows that when you look at it, it knows you are looking at it. And it acts different, which means it has intelligence. If we could only figure out how to talk to it. But the truth is that at the cellular level, God's particle is communicating with micromachinery we call cells. Like little engines with intelligence, the engine knows how to read and write DNA sequences. So it's clear to see that God's particle created all life, since all life forms on this planet are DNA based. And the DNA of a tree is not that different from those of other animals. So it's given that humans are descendant of the trees, as well as other forms of life on this planet. That is what Darwin said. But Darwin also said that only God could create life. And since we are all DNA-based life forms, even though most scientists have not openly acknowledged this, they do understand it, because there is no other explanation to how cells can work without talking about God's particle. And at the subatomic level, God's particle is trinary energy, and Isaac Newton already defined it as being matter that has three states: solid or gray, light, and dark state, where solid could be any type of material. It normally appears to be gray no matter what color it truly is. But energized was pure energy. It was light without any darkness in it. But its dark state is invisible and should be written in math as 1 plus -1 equals 0, where 1 is its light or matter state, -1 is its dark or antimatter state, and where 0 is its null state. So it makes a relationship of having light, gray, and dark energy, and is the beginning of scientific discovery. So we are talking about real science at the subatomic level here. Trinary energy is a complex subject in itself because it exists in every form of material on this planet, and is easy to define since all the known elements are in a periodic table of elements, and all have atomic weight for each element, and the number of valence electrons that orbit it. But trinary energy is smaller than an electron. It's so small that no one knows how small they truly are, because no matter how much you magnify them, they always look like they were before, slightly out of focus, as if you need to magnify them some more. So it's no wonder we do not have any of them on the periodic table. We could not actually collect them. Scientists know that most matter is made up of empty space, So one speck of trinary energy could not be contained in a glass, like water. Since it's so small, it would pass right through the empty space that make up all matter. Even the densest matter has space in between its molecules. So its interaction with matter is a mystery to most scientists of the day. So they try to smash atoms together to see what clues it will leave, as if looking for something they could call God. And that is where all this talk about the light wizard is going. It's more than just the trinary energy or God's particle. It's about how it does what it does, which is what everyone wants to know. How does it control all the cellular engines and all life forms at the same time? Isaac Newton had a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome, or AS, which is now recategorized under DSM-5 as an autism spectrum disorder on a severity scale, which is really just a way to further discredit people with AS, which is a long war against wizards that date back thousands of years, when the churches and Templar knights hunted down and murdered all witches and wizards. So the witch hunt never ends, as the neurotypicals, or NTs, doctors, try to make themselves feel more intelligent than autistic children, when it's common to find IQs over 180 in autistic children, but it's never found in neurotypicals, which are people you call normal people. So Isaac Newton was not normal, and he is known as the last magician, which translates to the last wizard, because spells are a wizard's way of communicating, and Isaac had another secret that he could not reveal. He was a descendant of the tribe of Ashkenazi. And I know this because Isaac Newton was my 5th great cousin. And I tell you this because I need to explain why science must be real. And if it's not, then it's not science. It's science fiction. But the proof is simple logic. So proving this is going to be a lot easier than you think. I refer to myself as a wizard. It simply means that I am a descendant of the Ashkenazi tribe. I have autism spectrum order, because autism is not a disorder. Like I said, this is how the medical doctors laugh at us wizards. They think this is funny, as if they will get the last laugh. But this is what I have to say to that. Because what I'm about to prove is that your doctorate degree is based on pure science fiction. So it's like owning a license to sell comic books. So let's get started. We will start off by the way scientists with doctorate degrees view the universe as working, and currently teach the world that this is real science and how the universe works. Then I will compare that to Isaac Newton's universe, and I will let you decide which one is true science and which one is science fiction. Albert Einstein said that the universe is dynamic, and Sir Isaac Newton said it was static. So what is the difference? Static means that energy does not move. The universe moves around it, meaning that all energy is bound by a force called trinary energy. In its light state of matter, it can carry energy, which can come in any form: electric, photonic, thermal, and so on. So the type of matter is based on the material it occupies. So it affects everything in the universe the same way, and in its dark state of antimatter, it can affect that same matter in another way. But it's always present at the subatomic level, so it's easy to verify its interaction with any matter in the universe. And since it's said to exist in dimensions less than our own, or the 0, 1st, and 2nd dimensions, that we really cannot interact with it at all. We can look at them, but we could not touch them. Even though the universe is made up of 100% trinary energy, you think the math is wrong. But at the subatomic level, you can prove that it's true. And once you prove to yourself that it does not move because it's static, the universe will start to make much more sense. For example, when the sun shines on the earth, its white light, which is actually made up of a rainbow of darkness, travels in a straight line to earth, and it does so at the speed of light. So it's a constant. That speed never changes, and there can only be one explanation for why the speed of light exists at all. And that is because the energy of that light never moves. It's the universe that moves around it. And it's easy to understand once you look at the universe working this way. Because you know that no matter how fast you travel, if you turn on a flashlight, it will still travel at the speed of light, and not the speed of light plus how fast you are traveling. Trinary energy can bind all the matter in the universe together at the subatomic level, so it creates an invisible force field called gravity. So that is how a static universe works. Now let's talk about Albert Einstein's dynamic universe. For one thing, it means that energy is shot out of an object. So when the sun shines on the earth, the sun is shooting photons of white light at the earth at the speed of light. And if you can imagine that it's no different than turning on a flashlight, the battery energizes the light emitting diode, or LED, and shoots a stream of light out the end of the flashlight. So it's clear that since that light has energy in it, meaning it has photons that can be converted into electricity, then you know that electricity has some mass. Which granted it's measured at the subatomic level, but still it has to obey the same physical laws of the universe. And so every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This light should have some measurable recoil based on its subatomic level of energy. But those that are intelligent enough to know that was Isaac Newton's laws. But then you remember that he was Albert Einstein's idol. So even Albert believed that Newton was right. So how could Einstein be so wrong? Because a flashlight has no recoil, nor does it have a trajectory. The light goes from 0 to the speed of light in 0 picoseconds flat. So it's clearly not being shot out of the flashlight. And if his E equals mc squared formula worked, that small amount of mass that energy and electricity has would become infinite in mass as it approached the speed of light, which would destroy the universe. But much like the Big Bang Theory, which means the whole universe popped out of a singularity, which means that every speck of matter in the universe came from a point in space that is smaller than a grain of sand, then expanded to the size of the universe as it is today. Thus, it would have to defy the laws of physics in doing so, since those particles would have had to travel instantaneously across the universe, instead of at the speed of light. So it's obvious that this science of Albert Einstein's does not obey the laws of physics to begin with, since it's all based on space being linked to time, as if time was a quantity that could be manipulated by space curvatures, and light would not be affected by this anomaly in space Albert Einstein calls gravity. So basically, a dynamic universe means that every speck of matter in the universe is held in place by time-space warps. And of course, time travel is possible. So if you do not like this explanation, you can go back in time and change it, because everything is possible in a dynamic universe. And the greatest thing is that you can make up whatever you want, since it does not have to follow the laws of physics. So this is how a dynamic universe works. Isaac Newton spent countless hours trying to figure out how to explain things in a way that everyone would understand it. But when it came to the light, he did not succeed. Not even Albert Einstein understood what Isaac Newton was talking about. Even though he was an Ashkenazi Aspie with a high IQ, which actually makes him a wizard also, but a dark wizard at that, because he could not understand the dynamics of a static universe, and was convinced that Newton was wrong about it. And the more he tried to prove Newton was wrong, the more he actually proved he was right. But the powers that be did not understand it either. But they did know that Isaac Newton was a wizard, and that was enough for them to want to discredit him. So they used the plagiarized math of Albert Einstein, the patent clerk who read too much, but understood so little, but was smart enough to fool most of the sheeple. So the powers that be embraced Albert Einstein and held him in high esteem, thus denouncing Sir Isaac Newton's static universe in favor of a dynamic universe, that any intelligent being would understand that it's simply not reality to think that way. You cannot just ignore the laws of physics just because they do not fit into your theory about how the universe works. That is just insane. But it's what this world did. And the funny part is that they used Newton's math and not Einstein's, because Einstein's math does not hold up at the subatomic level, proving that it's not real, and why Newton could not communicate his conception of the universe is because he was an Aspie, and had an IQ greater than 180. So he was not writing for neurotypicals with low IQs. He was writing for wizards like me. I have always questioned the wisdom of the teachers, and they never could dismiss the static universe with any logic, but would defend the dynamic universe with illogical reasoning, and then told me that I was not intelligent enough to understand Albert Einstein's theories. And I told them I have 180 IQ, and Albert Einstein only had 160 IQ. So your logic does not hold up. You have to answer my question. Which universe is right? Static or dynamic? They both cannot be right, so I ask the world to make up its mind. Which universe is real, and which is science fiction? But here is the problem. Sheeple are parrots. They only know how to go along with the herd. They are not intelligent enough to use logic to prove complex concepts. So they look for someone smarter than they are to debunk it. Those are just stupid sheeple who say things like, the atomic bomb works, and it's based on Albert Einstein's theory of E = mc squared, because they have no concept of reality. Because if this formula was right, the universe would not exist. But this formula is the icon of intelligence itself, which proves how stupid you really are. Think about this. The logic will take you to a place you do not want to go. And that is why it's a problem. Science must be real, not science fiction based on beliefs that make no sense whatsoever, just so the so-called doctors can save face with the sheeple on this planet, because it's much easier to put Aspies in their place, next to the brain dead. They can make autism a disorder and treat it like a disease, knowing that every genius who ever lived was an Aspie. But that is how neurotypicals think, and why it's such a problem. You are your own worst enemy, and it's your neurotypical way of thinking that is at the base of it. You treat autistic people like they are diseased and a burden to society, so doctors can have their way with them, which is just sick and twisted, and has gone on since the Dark Ages. The witch hunt never ends, so the world will continue in darkness because of its hatred of autistic people, even though history shows you who these people are, like me, Jeffrey Scott Fletcher, not to mention Hans Aspinger, Isaac Asimov, Charles Schultz, Jim Henson, John Denver, John Nash, Bobby Fischer, Carl Jung, Emily Dickinson, Henry Ford, Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Albert Einstein, Mark Twain, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Vincent van Gogh, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Johannes Kepler, Michelangelo, Galileo, Nostradamus, Isaac Newton, Merlin, Jesus, Adam, and the list goes on. Why so much hatred for a syndrome that makes you more intelligent? When will all the madness end? For science to move on, this prejudice of wizards must come to an end. Most sheeple do not understand that what the doctors are doing to this world is wrong. They do not believe that they have this evil plot to destroy autism, when in fact that is their very agenda from the beginning of time. The witch hunt will never end, and there is no other way to explain this. The reason why most of you sheeple do not understand what is going on is because you are too removed from being present to understand what is going on. You have never learned the true history of this planet, because it was written by those who have conquered the world. Thus they rewrote history to make themselves look good, and to hide their crimes against humanity. So they have to dumb you down by making you believe that science fiction is reality, and wizards are just mythical people, and are really just crazy old men, and witches are evil, ugly women who deserve to be burned at the stake, when chemically neutering them is no better than a lobotomy. So science is all set to create a vaccine that can eradicate autism forever, and it will be a mandatory vaccination, because the powers that be believe that autism is an epidemic that needs to be eradicated fast, before some of its wizards start to talk, and the sheeple start to listen. So they have trained you from an early age how to spot a wizard, and how to dismiss everything they have to say, even if it makes more sense than common theories about the universe, and why Sir Isaac Newton's static universe was abandoned in favor of a dynamic universe. Knowing how crazy a dynamic universe is, only the truly insane would believe such a lie, that it was really just a joke they played on the general public. Prove how stupid you really are. But that is the very definition of sheeple. Stupid animals that prove it every step of the way. I cannot start to talk about real science until the general public decides which universe is real. So put it to a vote, and let me know which one wins. As if I have any doubt which one it will be. The bidding of the powers that be, which is the dynamic universe, where everything is possible, and the laws of physics has no meaning. and you can travel back in time and kill your parents, so you will never be born, and you think that is science fiction? Then vote for a dynamic universe. Because the craziness just starts there, and the rabbit hole goes much deeper. And just how much deeper does it go?
The light wizard in the flesh will now define science in step 1. From the viewpoint of the light side, in terms the dark side can understand. The wizards are tired of running from the dark side. They are tired of being hunted down and murdered for telling the truth about the universe. They are tired of the sheeple who deny who they are. Just because you think you are better than people with autism. So you have to make autism into a disease to make yourself feel better about being so stupid. But that is why you are sheep, because you are just stupid animals who believe that they are the animal and not the energy called God's particle or Trinary Energy, which is also called the light. So their I is the light wizard. But this does not sound very scientific to you, so you deny any of it is true. And that is how the dark side works. When you live in a world where science fiction is said to be the true science of the day, you know you live in the dark ages. Because you cannot deny that the static universe makes more sense than a dynamic universe. And even though Sir Isaac Newton's math is real science, you figure his wizard ways meant that his static universe was not true, and Einstein's delusion is reality, even though his math can only be used for theoretical work and fails to work at the subatomic level, meaning it's not true. But you do not let details like the truth get in your way, because you know Isaac Newton was a wizard and had autism, yet you forgot that Albert Einstein did also. Just because he did not dabble in alchemy does not mean he was not a wizard. So how did Einstein's insane theories become science? Because you let them. The truth about the truth is that you allow it to be. Free will allows lies to become truth, and truth to become lies. So truth is just a word, and like all words, it has many meanings to many people. But how do you know what the truth is with all the lies about the truth? And the answer is free will. You just have to make up your own mind about what you believe is the truth. But you must also prove it to yourself. Do not take other people's opinions about what is true and what is not. So ask yourself if oil is the blood of the planet, or is it false fuel? One day a drill will hit a pocket of oxygen and hydrogen and the planet will go nova. But that is because sheep will allow drilling for profit, regardless of the cost of all life on this planet. Even as I say these words, this planet is being destroyed for profit. But the sheep will allow the powers that be to frack the planet for profit. As the police gear up for a war against the sheep to do the bidding of the banks who own them. The truth is all too obvious for those who see the light. The science of this age is all for profit. Sir Isaac Newton would only publish work that he could prove to be the truth. So a lot of his beliefs were unpublished, but part of his notes, and those notes shocked many people, and a lot of his notes were lost because people who plundered them destroyed most of his notes because they went against their belief system, or BS, which takes free will away from those that could have benefited from his knowledge. Luckily, I got to read all his notes before they were destroyed, so I decided to document his unpublished work after I proved to myself that it was the truth. And why did I do this? I am the light, I am the darkness, I am every shade of gray in between. I am the light wizard in the flesh.